So we took a break so that I could come to the conversation of toxicity. Like I said, you don't come here to hear what you think you like. This platform is for the things you need to know, not the things you want to, okay? And Koi and Cookie and I just going through the conversation of the mind of a 19, 18-year-old, also looking backwards and connecting the dots forwards. And, you know, just as we went into the break in the last video, I could not put my mind around what does emotional pain look like for a young person, because I'm like, now what are you dealing with? But then you talked about toxic parents, and this, both of you went, yeah. What does a toxic adult look like? And I'll start with you, because this Kameme here.
I think somebody who has, whether knowingly or unknowingly, they know they've gone through so much and they haven't seen the need to deal with all that, and they end up projecting it onto their children. Without knowing it or knowing it, that's toxic as an adult.
So I'm going to say this. Parents are humans too.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. But I do know some of the things that I have had to caution friends of mine against is that thing where a man either says negative things about a child's mother in their presence, calls her names in the presence of the children. That's toxic. Yes. When a woman says, you're useless just like your father, or you're going to end up being, I mean, that is toxic.
Very.
But I wanted to believe, once again, as I sit here in the middle, knowing how old my parents are and how much younger your parents are, that over time we had understood there are things we don't say around children. There are things we don't do around children. And children means all the way to the age of 21.
Just as long as they're your children, I think, because I mean, I think eventually as an adult you'll understand, okay, yeah, mom is angry and all these things.
And mom is a human being.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But before you realize that your parents are human beings, they're on a pedestal.
Oh, yes.
And so even by the time I was learning like why my parents broke up, because at 8 you're wondering, so will my parents ever get married? And then they get together. Yeah, and then they get married to different people and they're like, oh, that's a possibility.
That was not supposed to happen.
Yeah. So then now the toxic part comes in when they're using, it's basically projection, where there are things they haven't dealt with, and so it always comes out of their mouth. It comes with their
presence.
Yeah, and with actions and things like those. And they're like, but it's a child, they'll forget. But the one, in fact, that's the biggest attitude
like,
that most parents, they don't understand this, just let it go. But children can tell. The tone of your voice changes.
Of course.
The same way you can tell that your mom is angry at you even when you're a 2-year-old.
Of course.
Because how the tone of her
voice changes.
Yeah, yes. So if a child senses that you're being hostile and they hear mom, you don't like their mom. It's just putting small things together. It's not that they know the entire story, but eventually it's something that will manifest. Because now they're constantly thinking about, they're constantly listening to you, and then they're absorbing. It's that thing for don't do this around the children, they're 2. Because it continues even until they're 16. If you act a certain way around your 16-year-old, they're going to absorb it. And then depending on how you've taught them to process it or how they've learned to process it, it's going to come out a different way. If you've taught them that the only way to get over anger is to drink, when they're with their friends and they're at a club and someone pisses them off.
These are toxic parents.
Yes.
Especially because parents are people. They need to remember they're people in children's lives.
But they also need to remember that their children are people. They're not just their children.
Yeah.
That's also something that very many people have.
They don't get it at all.
Because they feel like they're just raising their child. They don't know this is a human being who's going to influence society.
Mine, yeah. Mine, alone, for me. But then when they go to school, they're interacting with other people.
There's something she said, and Koi, I need to come to you on this. So when you even hear a child cursing, it's not necessarily because they got it from other kids. They picked it up from home. Yes, I know this because I remember when my daughter was in kindergarten, the headmistress actually raised it at a meeting and said, incidentally, the following are words we do not use here in this school. So when we hear them, we know who uses them, and it is you. And of course, a lot of parents don't like being called out on the cursing. But the truth is, most of the time, a kid picks it up from home, brings it to school, and then another, just like the common cold and ringworms, and other kids get it.
Yeah.
But you also said part of being a toxic parent is who you also introduce into your children's lives.
Yes. The thing for being a single parent, and then you date, and then you bring in this stranger into your child's home setting. This is where they call home. When
I am
Even if
so
it's
shocked
actually
you
just
guys
a friend.
get it.
yeah, even
Doesn't have to be a
friends. Actually, yeah,
significant
even
other.
friends. It doesn't even have to be your significant other. Like if you bring someone who's an alcoholic or a drunkard, and they've come and they've hung out, and they're talking to your child, and they're drinking in front of them. That's somebody you've already placed in their life. That's someone who, when they think, they're like, oh yeah, Uncle Johnny does this and that. But that's someone who's going to influence their life. The things that they say when they are drunk,
Yes.
especially if they
feels
see them,
unsafe around them.
exactly, especially if your child feels unsafe. It's like the posts that we're constantly seeing about when you're a girl, like being raised by a single mom or a single dad, mostly single moms, and you're told, we have visitors, can you dress properly? What kind of, and then the question is, what kind of visitors are you bringing into the home?
Aha. This is how you guys disaggregate
Have
things.
started thinking,
But I'm very
yeah.
surprised once again with your generation, given mine, that anybody would introduce even a significant other into the family setting before we figured out what this is. Because that's the way it should work.
Yeah.
First we figure out what this is.
And then we see if you guys make sense too.
And then we will see whether, yes, because I'm very, very unknowingly clear about who I introduce my children to and who I don't.
And the setting.
And there are people, and by the way, and this goes for both genders.
Yeah.
There are people who've never met my child. They keep asking me, when can I meet her? And I am very clear, you never will. I don't say anything, I'm like, one day.
And everyone thinks
but
it's
I
a
know,
joke.
and everybody thinks it's a joke,
Yeah.
but I know I don't want you in her life.
Yeah.
By the way, we can meet for drinks, we can meet at your house, we will do lunches, but you, I do not want in her life. So I'm very surprised there are people who still don't do that boundary thing. And people who know me, eh? My walls are high, my boundaries are wide. By the time you've breached my walls, hey. No, it's taken a moment, but it means I have allowed you in.
Yeah.
And I'm so shocked that you'd say that there are people who we already know,
And I think
work on a tabia mbaya, and we
Yes,
bring them into our
exactly.
children's lives.
Exactly. And not even just into their lives. I think the one that I really want to specifically mention is when you bring them home.
Actually, that's the other thing for me.
You can
Home.
take your child with you to a birthday party and they find all these drunk adults.
Yes, but you
It's
not
but
to
what
your
they
home.
remember is it was at a party
Yeah.
at someone else's or at another place. But when you bring them to your house, this is not just your safe space, and it comes back to that thing for not in my house, this is my space and all that.
Yes.
But the thing is, most adults and most parents think it's their space alone. It's like your child doesn't factor into it.
Oh my
So
goodness.
so they're behaving like this is my friend coming to my house. Nobody else is here. Nobody else matters. See, it's my house. I'm the one who pays rent. Do you pay rent here? And you're 8. Imagine being asked a question like that. And all you're trying to tell your mom is, I'm just uncomfortable around this person.
I don't like so and so.
Yeah. And there are, in fact, in the situation of bringing somebody home, and then your child tells you that they don't like this person, and you ignore it, that's being toxic. And even if you're not a toxic parent, that's a toxic trait that you need to get rid of, because it's going to grow into...
I had not thought about that.
Yeah, it's going to grow into, they go to school, that teacher is treating them some type of way, and they come and tell you, and you're like, you need to stop complaining so much. See, as we went through, we dealt with teachers also. And you'll find that sometimes the teachers actually bully the kids. But because of your attitude towards it, eventually your children stop talking to you. In fact, now they become violent, they take it into their own hands. And what are their friends going to tell them? Even me, I know there are situations where my friends have told me, hey, there's this teacher, and I'm like, go beat him. Do you see, want to go beat him? And
We'll just block her for now.
No, and it's not
remove
about
my
violence. It's just if they are not being listened to at home and they want to take it into their own hands, you can try and convince them. But
I do
learned.
believe children need to be listened to.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the voice of your child often enough, you'll know when they're lying and when they're telling the truth. So
especially
you've got to learn
the
to
tones, or even when they're trying to cover up that it's not something that affects them, but you can hear it. You can hear it. And you can always hear it. And so their parents were like, I didn't even notice. I'm like, you weren't trying to listen to them. And a lot of parents listen to respond. They don't want to hear.
Oh, by the way, all adults listen to respond.
And
that's why we are
annoying.
bad at interviews and media.
Yeah.
That's why we're bad radio hosts. Because what radio hosts do, especially it's a double header, they wait for the other person to stop doing this so they can start talking. So by the way, it's not just parents.
Yeah.
Most people are bad at listening.
So now when you do it to your child.
I want to know for you, what does toxic look like? Because I'm sitting here like I never have thought. I know that I'm very guarded. I'm very guarded about life. I'm guarded about who comes in. I'm guarded about what I share. I mean, I must probably have the most boring Instagram account. I don't know why those 251,000 people are there. But what does toxic look like in your eyes?
Another thing is, if your child has a problem, you've acknowledged you have a problem. Your child seeks out for help from you, but you're like, no, I'm not going to help you because this is going to bring disgrace to our family. Like,
yeah, this is your child.
yes.
Yeah.
But it's not 1975. Are there people still talking like that?
Talking and acting like that.
Like,
Yeah.
for me, it beats me because you care more about what other people think than the well-being of your child. And they've actually, it would be a different story if you're that one trying to make your child, like, get better.
Who are these
something.
other people? There's an amazing lady, and she's currently on KCB Lions Den, Joan. Joan always asks people, show me these people. When you're telling me, people will say, show me these people. Who are they? Who are more important than your children? Who are these people?
And there are so many. If you sometimes we feel like we have to do mini meetings between Koi and I so that we can figure out how we're helping person A to Z, because we're not doing it alone. At some point we'll have to pass it on to our moms, and we're like, I don't know what to do here. But I can't
in the
leave them.
year, and I have to mark this, in the year 2018, there's still somebody saying that stuff.
Yeah, very many, especially if they are very traditional, in the sense that, like,
I'm the most
traditional.
I am traditional. That's why I don't understand why people put everything on social media. I'm boring.
It's not even it's more like they want to keep up appearances.
There's a word. It's not traditional. These people are keeping up appearances.
And they've been told that...
Keeping up with them karanjas.
And they've been told, if my child has gone to school, they've finished high school, they've done IB, they're going to college, they're doing this, I have excelled as a parent. They're not thinking about, how is my child's emotional health? How is their mental health? And we have so many friends who go through things where it's an actual mental health problem. And we're the ones telling them, you have to stop doing that thing because it's making the situation worse. And you know what they tell us? And we can't even argue with them. But nobody else is helping me. Nothing else is helping. It's the only way I go to sleep. They've brought it up with their caregivers, the people around them. And they've been told it's too expensive. We can't keep buying you drugs. It's not treated like, if they had cancer, they'd be taken
by the way,
to
we
the
already
best
found out it's covered by your medical insurance.
Yeah, but they still behave like it's not, or they don't want to acknowledge it, because now you'll have to have conversations like, oh, we saw you at Nairobi Hospital. What are you guys doing there? Oh, I was taking Nani for chemotherapy, nights. I was taking Nani for whatever, like a
psych evaluation.
Yeah. And nobody wants to say that. My child isn't crazy.
Caveat. I want to know if you want to replace these two. That's all. Because I want to hear the other side of this, because it makes no sense to me that in the year 2018, anybody's decision is still governed by what others will say or think.
It's actually the biggest thing we fight together as people helping our friends.
That means your parents are also on social media. know what I mean? I see no other reason to care.
They're not on social media. The car that I drive, sijui the school that my child goes to.
I have a girlfriend who once said this to me. Her name is Anna. Anna said, a lot of people who tell you they're working hard so they can provide for their children are lying.
Yes.
What they're trying to do is have a bigger car, a bigger house, and live in a different neighborhood
And their children go to a specific school.
And it has nothing to do with the kids.
Nope.
I dare you to replace these two and tell me I'm wrong. Go on. Go on.
Yeah.
Kuja tu vile unakuja. Subscribe. Thank you, girls. Thank you so much.